Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Vinyl Thoughts. The last time we did one of these videos, I talked about my top 5 albums of the year of my birth, 1978. And so I thought maybe I would visit another year and talk about my top albums for that year. And since we are now in the year 2020, a lot of really important albums to me are turning 30 years old. All albums that came out in the year 1990. So I decided, you know what? Okay, I'll put together a top 5 for 1990. And that was really fucking hard. So hard, in fact, that I expanded it to a top 10 of 1990. And even then, I stressed the fuck out over this list. So here we go. My top 10 albums of 1990. So before I begin, yes, I probably will have left out some important album that you think should be in the top 10. I know. So many fucking great albums came out in 1990. And so it was hard even picking 10. But I had to remind myself that, look, this is my top 10. It's all about me. It's about the albums that have either influenced me, have had some sort of effect on my musical life since 1990, or have just stuck with me since they came out, on top of just being fucking badass albums. So let's start with number 10. Number 10, Prong, Beg to Differ, the second Prong album. Honestly, to me, the first proper Prong album. This is the first one where they really started coming across as this sort of like post-punk meets metal type thing. And this album is just fucking amazing. For those of you who are old folks like me, you may remember around 1990, half of this album, riffs from it were used as like intros and outros for the show Headbangers Ball. So you put this album on, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh shit, oh, I know that riff. Anyway, so let's take a look at this real quick. I'm going to try to be quick. We're doing 10 albums. Here's the inner sleeve. By the way, these are all 1990 pressings. No repressings here, folks. So this is the original Epic Records pressing of Beg to Differ. Nothing special going on there. Blah, blah, blah. Fucking amazing record. My number 10 of 1990. Number 9, Obituary, Cause of Death. A fucking classic death metal album. This was one of the 2 albums that was my gateway into death metal. When I first heard this, I think I was 14 years old. And even today, sometimes I feel the same way that I felt back then, where I listened to this, I'm like, I still can't believe that people got away with making this music and still get away with it today. Because it's just, at the time, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before. And it's just a stone cold classic death metal album. Look at those dudes. Yeah, so there you go. Once again, 1990 pressing. This one is on Road Racer. So I believe this is a European pressing of this. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Number 9, Cause of Death. Number 8, Forbidden, Twisted into Form. It's a fucking amazing album. It's the second Forbidden album. It is just so amazing. It's so well done, so well written. Russ Anderson's vocals, he's one of my favorite metal vocalists, and yeah, he is amazing on this, as is everyone that plays on this fucking record. There's the dudes right there. Yeah, this is one of those albums that I feel under one flag. This is a UK pressing of this. It's one of those albums that I truly feel like it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. It is, I don't say things are underrated a lot, because sometimes it's kind of dumb to say that, but I do think in the case of this album, it is underrated. It is a classic. It is so well done. There's no, I don't know. Yeah, I'm speechless. Number 8, Twisted into Form. Number 7, Faith, Hope, Love by King's X. When this album came out, I remember getting it on cassette and listening to it over and over again. And in my young mind, which in 1990, I was 12, I just remember thinking, this is like metal meets the Beatles, and it was amazing. I'd never heard anything like it. It's just amazing songwriting, sort of like a progressive rock metal hybrid with amazing vocals. Some great riffs on here too. And these guys, I'd like to say they're from Houston. They're not really, but around the time they were doing their classic albums on Megaforce, they lived in Houston. And so I like to say, hey, you know what? They're from my home state. So there you go. Yeah, Megaforce. That's right. And I always thought it was really interesting that, like, oh, these guys are on the same label as Anthrax and Metallica. That's pretty fucking cool. Anyway, number 7, Faith, Hope, Love. Number 6, Strap It On by Helmet, the debut album from Helmet. And this one is one that is highly influential to me as a guitar player and as a songwriter. It really sort of awakened this desire in me to play like really rhythmic stuff with sort of odd chords and things like that. And nobody did it better than Helmet. And oh, look, we got a plain white sleeve. How boring. But anyway, there you go. Noise Amphetamine Release. Yeah, Helmet is just one of those bands that I think they were groundbreaking. Sure, you could argue that the music they made ended up leading to music that wasn't quite as good, but this particular album and pretty much the first handful of Helmet albums are unfuckwithable. They're amazing, and this first one is the beginning of it all. Number 6, Strap It On. Number 5, Lights, Camera, Revolution, Suicidal Tendencies. I did a whole video ranking the Suicidal Tendencies albums, so I talk a lot about this album there. It's the first one with what I consider to be the quintessential lineup of Suicidal Tendencies. And there's just so many great songs. You know, just start with You Can't Bring Me Down and just move on. But yeah, well, look, once again, oh, look, we have a little hype sticker that just got stuck on the bag there. There you go, Epic. Nothing special here. No bells and whistles, just a fantastic album by the greatest crossover thrash band of all time. Debate amongst yourselves. Number 5, Lights, Camera, Revolution. Number 4, The American Way, Sacred Reich. Sacred Reich, one of my favorite thrash metal bands, one of my favorite bands of all time. And this is the album where they got a little bit progressive, I guess, a little more epic. It's the most epic and progressive that Sacred Reich ever got, and I think they fucking nailed it. And I love the politically charged thrash metal of the 80s. I wish that we had more of that today. Some bands are doing it, but not enough. There you go. This is a road racer. I guess, yeah, it's probably European. Not really sure. Didn't do my homework on this, folks. I was too busy picking albums and trying to put them in order. But anyway, yeah, did we look at the inner sleeve on this? There you go. It is a fucking amazing thrash metal album. It's that thing that a lot of bands in the 90s or early 90s were doing, where they were expanding their sound and progressing and basically just trying to get better at all the things that they were doing. And Sacred Reich fucking nailed it. And so there you go. Number 4, The American Way. Number 3, Obnoxious, Acid Rain, my favorite UK thrash metal band, my favorite album from said UK thrash metal band. And everything I said about that Sacred Reich album, I could say about this, aside from the politically charged lyrics. It is very mature. They expanded their sound. It's the most progressive and epic that they ever got. And it's literally just killer song after killer song. There's not a dull moment on this album. It is a fucking classic. It's another album like that Forbidden album that if you don't know it, that's fucking sad because it's fucking great. Yeah, European Under One Flag pressing of Obnoxious. Can't say enough great things about Acid Rain. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I suck their collective dicks quite a bit. So yeah, there you go. Number 3, Obnoxious. Number 2, Persistence of Time, Anthrax. Hey, remember what I said about that last album and the one before it? yeah, 1990. Thrash metal bands were trying harder, pushing the envelope. This is a fucking classic. look at the track list there. It is, it's pretty much a fucking perfect album to me. This is the album that came out right after I got into Anthrax, and I was not disappointed at all. It's just an amazing, mature thrash metal album. The songwriting is fucking great. The last one at that point with Joey Belladonna, although we have Joey back, so that's awesome. But yeah, this is an album that never gets old. It's lived with me. This is an album that I've listened to so much that it's probably somehow imprinted in my DNA. So yeah, there you go. Number 2, Persistence of Time. Okay, number 1. Do we need a drum roll? Probably not. Most of you out there already know what this album is, I'm sure. If you've been watching enough videos, you know my number 1 album of 1990, Rust in Peace from Megadeth. I've talked the fuck out about this album. Is that even a phrase? I've literally run this album into the ground talking about it. So have many other people out there. But it is a fucking phenomenal album. Pretty much perfect. Once again, check out the track listing. It's the best album that Megadeth ever did, in my opinion. And in my opinion, they will never top it. In fact, most metal bands probably won't top it. So there you go, Capitol Records logo there. Once again, 1990s pressings of these albums. Did I do the inner sleeve? Look at the dudes. Badass looking motherfuckers making a badass motherfucking album. My number 1 album of 1990, Rust in Peace. So you see what I was saying about this being really hard? Because guess what I didn't talk about? Slayer, Alice in Chains, Testament, Living Colour. What else was there? There was a lot. There was a list of 50 albums, and I'm like, I could probably make a case for at least 30 of these being in the top 10. And so, it kind of sucked having to do that, but luckily we're just doing it for fun. And all those other albums that I didn't talk about, those are still in my collection. I'm going to listen to those motherfuckers a lot because 1990 was a fucking great year for music, especially metal. If you haven't heard any of the albums I talked about, do yourself a favor and go out and find them somewhere. You're going to thank me for it. Anyway, thank you once again for listening to all of my bullshit. Make sure you leave your bullshit down there in the comments, and I will see you all again very soon.